Greetings and God bless. I just wanted to talk about the bikeable, walkable movement that's going on. And the map is not the territory. That is something that I have learned the past few relocations that I have done myself uh, in this time period that we're in. So, one thing that I notice, so I'll look at a map and I find places that are close in, there's the drug addiction population that is on the sidewalks that walk from, blocks from the library to a convenience store is uh, going to be a nightmare, especially if you're solo. And because of this weaponized homelessness, mental illness, and the weaponized Bolshevik uh, defund the police movement, so the police are like, I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to get involved. Then, so we have this anarchy that's going on. These stores, libraries, everything closes early. So cafes will close at 3, stores will close right at 5. Like I noticed that in when I was in South Dakota, I'm like, wow, people that work 9 to 5, well, the little health food store closes at 5. So it's just those are big things that is overlooked when we're just looking at a map and being like, oh, we have this, we have that. We don't have a strode. These are even small streets. But when you make the sidewalks a nightmare to go, and, when you're in the snow belt where nobody shovels their sidewalks, businesses don't shovel the sidewalks, the cities don't hold anybody accountable for shoveling the sidewalk. And there's a mentality of entitlement of drivers, and I have experienced this in every liberal city I've been in, where drivers will, as run you over as much as look at you. And that's another thing. There's everybody's pushing this climate change agenda, and they're drivers, and uh, you know if you're really concerned about the planet, which everybody I know I talk to is, everybody's like totally hysterical, thinking that you and me are killing the planet, when in fact it's major globalist infrastructure that's doing so. But for all that, everybody's just running you over, like whether they are in a car or on the sidewalk on a scooter or on a bicycle. Now that is just something I noticed when I was in Portland, Oregon, where there was people, all demographics. It was actually all guys though, but every demographic. Some guy in spandex, some hoodlum guy. Like there's this entitlement mentality of cyclists, and now there's e-bikes and scooter drivers who are going just as fast as can be, because all they're using is their little fingers and stuff. So there's this messianic, well, we're make things more bike friendly, and that may work in Amsterdam or may have worked in other countries, but the Americans are unhinged. Like they're cultivated at this point to be sociopathic when they're trying to get to someplace. I don't know if they have a fear of boredom or what is going on, but I'm in Denver right now, and you'll see 5 people on scooters going as fast as possible in a crowd. And especially when you're a single person, I don't know why, but like a lot of cyclists and scooters, there's this thing that happens, you look at something and you head towards it, uh, and like I heard in soccer that you're supposed to look at the direction you want the ball to go. And I think there's just a lot of inexperienced people who aim their bikes, their scooters at you, um, when there's all this space. Like that's what I don't understand. Why do people aim their cars, when there's all this space and they have had time that they could turn, but they only do it when you're right in front of them. I don't know. But I just want to point out that just because something looks good on a map is not necessarily a good place, because especially now in 2023 with this weaponization of mental illness, homelessness, and Marxists are going to different places and saying, um, you deserve reparations. Because when I was in South Dakota, Native people would corner me in the middle of, I'd be walking in the middle of nowhere because I don't know how to drive. So it'd be roasting hot in the summertime, or icy and 20 degrees in the wintertime. And I was asked for reparations. And I'm on my way to the store. I don't have a car. I don't have an income to support a car, a home, and everything. And these native people were telling me that I owed them. So I think there's this, and maybe this greenwashing thing with the bikeability. Uh, Everybody's just like the movement is just like, well, you'll ride a bike, so you won't have to be accosted by Marxist brainwash people expecting reparations because of your skin color. And that's the irony. The people who are into this um, greenwashing thing of bikeability or even pedestrian friendly, they are Marxists. They maybe don't realize it, but they believe that demographics deserve reparations. They believe in the destruction of the state. They believe in the eradication of Republicans and the Constitution and freedom and heterosexuality, traditional values. That's the unfortunate thing. There's like a onesie twosie every once in a while. I see somebody who's like, yeah, I'm not really into this because of climate change, which again is a globalist engineered situation, as well as a sign of the times. The liberals will totally ignore that there's something demonic going on. Like, why is there dry clean story time hour where men don't wear underwear and rolling around on the floor with children? Like, that should set off red flags, but no, liberals are like, oh no, this is fine. This is totally fine. And with this whole sex change thing, and it just gets even more perverse the more you become informed about it. So, anyways, I just want to point out, if you're a pedestrian looking to relocate somewhere and it looks walkable on the map, you need to, because of this weaponization of homelessness that's been facilitated by this weaponization of zero available properties, because international investors are buying up properties. Major property management companies are purchasing up properties. When I was in a place in Missoula, Summit, there was this company called Summit, and it owned all the real estate. It came in, I don't know, maybe like 2017, 18, and everything was owned by this company, and it was a predatory company, and the city did not do anything to protect its tenants, and its tenants were at just so abused. It was like a slum, and it was just really hard to find affordable places for entry level, like basic workers. And something that I have noticed since the lockdowns happened, like after the lockdown, know how to um, hawk products to make money, a lot of money. They're like, where are the, people don't want to work. Where are the, I need people to work at the gas station and work at the coffee shop and at the grocery store and the fast food restaurant. All these places, are having reducing hours and reducing service because there's not enough workers. Where are nobody like all these, like Mike Adams has said this, Peggy Hall, Anomaly. I forgot who the fourth person was, but the thing is, if you don't have real estate that's available for those entry level workers that's working at the donut shop, that's working at the grocery store, or the fast food restaurant or the gas station, if you don't have any place that somebody can live, you're not going to have that employee. And because landlords are so greedy, they're quadrupling the rents for a slum that's not, it's not worth that $1,500 that the landlord's not putting anything into. Because landlords are so greedy. Landlords are just like, I have to live this millionaire lifestyle. Then you're not going to have those employees, and employers are not paying enough for people to live on. So landlords are expecting employees to pay everything that the employee makes, and employers are expecting basically employees to work for free, just basically volunteering, not having anything for themselves. The employees won't have anything for themselves after rent. And so it's this ridiculous situation. So I would just say, regardless of whether it's a Republican or Democratic state, because I've been in what I thought were Republican strongholds like Montana and South Dakota, and even I thought Virginia, but it was just as bad. They're, depending on, like Montana didn't have as much of the weaponized homelessness everywhere that I was. But when I was downtown, but when I was in South Dakota, downtown Rapid, it was, except for when there's a festival. Whenever there's a festival or a fair, I don't know what happens to all these homeless people, like the 10 homeless people that, like a friend of mine in Arkansas says that what happens is a group of people are driven from the reservation to the location. So then the group of Native people shake people down for spare change money, and then calling them a pimp, the person who drove them there then collects the money. So I'm thinking maybe, when there's a festival and stuff, the pimp doesn't bring those 10 people who are doped up and drunk and angry, to intimidate tourists or locals. So yeah, it's very strange because you don't see all the riffraff there on a nice day when there's a festival, but they're there every day, every crummy day that you're walking in, 0-degree weather and the ice, and you're, barely able to stay upright, and then you pass by a place where somebody's lurking and they're like, spare change, and you're just trying to get to the door, like, without falling. So yeah, I would don't think that just because the place is Republican, it is, and and don't think that they have it more together in terms of the defund the police thing, because this Marxist infiltration has been going on like for 40, 50 years probably, and especially in places that are considered the heartland. So it's been really disappointing. Like when I first moved to Montana, I was like, wow, these, like, when you're in California, people didn't feel like they had to prove anything. But I think when, like, it was Montana, so I think liberals, they kind of were more extreme or more dumb because they felt like they had something to prove, because they felt inferior about being like Montana, whereas when you're in California, there's nothing to prove because it's just a non-issue. But in Montana, I guess, it was just more emotionally immature, the liberality there. So I just wanted to put that out there. And lastly, when when like this bikeability movement, uh, it really ignores pedestrian safety, and just like I think there's this assumption that people who are into the bikeability movement care about pedestrian safety, but I really don't think it's they're just so consumed with their own transportation and their own comfort. And and this is just something I experienced as a pedestrian on sidewalks, you know having to cross a bike lane. Like, I think bike lanes are dangerous for pedestrians because bicyclists could care less and are like hostile. Like, bicyclists are displaced drivers, and they're even more dangerous because now bicyclists can try to kill you when you're on the sidewalk, when you're trying to cross the street and you happen to be in that bike lane. I don't understand. Like, I do bicycle, but I do not nearly run people over as a matter of course. And some people might be like, well, so and so might be late to work or whatever. And so that's an excuse for endangering a pedestrian's life when they're on the sidewalk. And that's just the same problem with the um, dangerous driving mentality. This entitled, I'm in a car, so I'm more important. I have better things to do than somebody who's walking. I think like some drivers are assuming that if you're walking, you're just on a day off, or you're some lazy riffraff. And yeah, and it just makes being a pedestrian very demoralizing. And the thing is, we are all pedestrians. We all are bipeds, unless somebody's been in a war or lost some foot to diabetes. But still, ultimately, that's what we understand ourselves to be. And I think like drivers and bicyclists and people on scooters need to they need to give uh, pedestrians the right of way when they're on the sidewalk and when they're on the zebra crossing to cross at their light. And I'm telling I'm saying what is required by law, but so many people on bikes and scooters could care less about that, and they think it's optional. And and unfortunately there's no accountability because the police could care less as well, because the police will run you over as much as these reckless people on bicycles and um, scooters. And this is I have experienced this twice. When I first moved here to Denver, like a Denver police car nearly ran me over. And this happened to me a couple times in Montana, where a car, like, there was no traffic. We're waiting at the light, and I'm waiting because I'm like, I don't want the cop to pull me over if I cross the street when the light's not going. So I'm waiting for my light, and then my light turns on. I can walk, and the police car tries, like, he swings really fast at me, and I'm like, so cars and cyclists and scooters expect pedestrians to run, and they aim their vehicle, and they expect you to run. Like, they're like, kill the pedestrian, almost kill the pedestrian, almost kill the pedestrian, make them run monkey, run monkey, run. And I'm not going to run when I'm on the sidewalk. I'm not going to run when I'm on the zebra crossing at my light that I waited for, that the cop was there for 5 minutes, but then he's trying to hit me. And this has happened to me twice when I was at the same crossing. Like, I don't know what to think of it. But there's just something, we can get all these bike lanes, or we can, try to flip seats and make it some liberal, progressive stronghold. But until people start becoming actually more human and having a backbone of morality, doing these external adjustments, this greenwashing is not going to really do anything in the long run. So those are my thoughts, and I just wanted to let pedestrians who are thinking about moving um, know that you want to look at the hours of the locations of the cafes and stuff. Are they closing right at 5? What's open later? What the weather's like? Like, are the sidewalks maintained? Like when I was in Virginia, in Norfolk, I was walking on this long, long stretch of sidewalk, but there was this really heavy rain, and it was like maybe 4 or 5 inches of water on the sidewalk because something was something wasn't flowing. There wasn't drainage, um, and yeah, like these Lime scooters and these Lyft scooters. So they clutter the sidewalk, so it's like a hazard. It's a trip hazard. I've seen people fall over them, uh, and not to mention that the people who are riding them are reckless and endanger pedestrians because they're coming at you from every angle, and just like drivers expect that it's your job to jump out of the way of the car. That's what these scooter drivers. And it's illegal for these scooters to be on the sidewalks here, but nobody's enforcing it here in Denver. So I would try to take that into account, because if some place seems walkable, but you have all these aggressive people on scooters, it's unpleasant. Like, I do not like for some reason these scooter people want to be on the 16th Street Mall, even though 15th Street and 17th Street are bigger spaces, a lot less people. But I think these scooter riders and e-bikes and cyclists like being seen on their vehicle on the sidewalk. They really want to just shove it in your face. And I'm wondering if they enjoy bullying people on the sidewalk, because that's what you're doing. Like on the 16th Street Mall, there's all this construction going on, and there's not a lot of space. Like some places, there's like 2 feet, with all these projections going on and steps and doors swinging out. And yeah, these people on their bikes and people on their scooters and people on their e-bikes and skateboards, they just, like, everybody, it doesn't make sense. And it's like, we're all these people, like, do there's no manners, like there's no consideration, there's no common sense. Like, I'm not expecting some genteel, aristocrat or whatever. I'm just like, we've only got 2 feet and you've got 5 scooters trying to go as fast as possible, or 2 bicyclists trying to go as fast as possible, in this crowded, cramped construction zone. And there's nothing that's done about it. And you know I, and it's like, there's police that I'm assuming work 40 hours a week, and I can't imagine that there's 40 hours of murders and rapes and whatever going on. Like, when I was growing up in New York, there were cops just kind of around, and it worked. Like, I was in New York last summer, and I felt safer there than most other places. And if only I could afford the rent there or around there, I would be there. And yeah, and so what the news is promoting as the most dangerous place is not necessarily the most dangerous place. Unfortunately, those who are in charge of the legislation and stuff with the whole lockdown mentality and this fascism, this medical fascism that is going on, like that makes it a bad place, politically. But on the street, I felt better in New York. And, the only time a driver's going to stop is when there's like five people crossing the street. If it's just one person, the driver's like, I'm going to run into you. You better run. And that's just such bad form. It's so evil. And yet this same person is going to be like, climate change, and you need to take the injection to protect, to because you're a grandma killer. That's what's weird about this hypocritical mentality that's possessed much of America. Is people are like, you're a grandma killer if you're not wearing a mask and if you're not getting the injection, but these very same people will run you over. They'll run you over on the zebra crossing when it's your life. They'll run you over when they're on a scooter riding way too fast on the sidewalk. It's psychotic. It's sociopathic, and I understand that this is engineered and cultivated, but I just wanted to mention this, that there's more to finding a pedestrian friendly location than than just, oh, does it look walkable, because you want to take into account all the things that I've mentioned. So I think that is, oh, and also one last thing, look at like the stores that you're planning to visit when you're there. Look at maybe the cafes, the Starbucks. And I understand people don't like Starbucks, but sometimes it's like the only place that's there. Sometimes it's the only one that has a bathroom. So I'm like, I really do. That's, when I have traveled, that's been such a savior for me. So, so look at other, amenities that you'll be going to and seeing what commentary there are. So is there a lot of commentary about like homeless people in the reviews? Because that will give you an indicator. And I do think that the indicator of how good a city is how the homeless are. Like when I was in New York a couple summers ago, the homeless people had shoes on. Here in Denver, I'll see people, guys without shoes on. I'll see them with their pants like falling off their butts. Like every other place I've been to where there have been homeless people or mentally ill people, they've had shoes. The men have their pants on their butts. But Denver takes it to this whole other like nightmare, first rings of hell kind of thing. And people are screaming and screeching and hollering and twitching and matted hair. Like, homelessness is a horrible um, reflection of a city. And but Denver's is this whole other like nightmare, like real, like Tenderloin in San Francisco does not compare. And I'm wondering if it's 2023, the lockdowns, and the past 10 years of legalization of drugs, if that's made the homelessness so these people are using these super amped up drugs, and also the hard-heartedness of Christians in this area, because they've just had to be around this legalized drugs, and the aftermath of this. So, because I don't know how cities, private groups take care of homelessness, but in extreme poverty. But it's and the worst part of it is that I read in a article that this year Denver brought in 7,000 illegals, and for the first 6 months they put $30,000 to each of these 7,000 illegals. So each illegal had $30,000 invested into them. 7,000. 7,000 times 30,000. Now, I see the same homeless people, of course, different homeless people too that I've never seen before. But if even 10 people were taken care of, that would make a big difference on the street. Like I don't even know if there's like of the worst case homeless people I've seen. It's like if the city of Denver even just did 1,000 homeless people, but instead they chose to put $30,000 for 6 months for each 7,000 people. So that's like 21. I don't know. Is that like? Anyways, you guys can do the math. Like it's in the hundreds of thousands. And yeah, it's just a weird situation, and I just want to give you guys a heads up. And there's going to be like if you have the right information, and just take it in the right way, um, you might have a more successful relocation that is pedestrian friendly. Because I have been in places where it's been relatively safe, and there's a walkable place, and if flexible with housing, things can work out. But things are harder now because we are under attack, like the lockdowns and this subsequent um, just so many things, like this mental illness, the fentanyl, the homelessness. Like this has made being a pedestrian really rough. If you're a single pedestrian, it is not safe in a lot of places. And there's so many, and it's like it's anarchy, and you are on your own. So I really do think it's important to make sure you're in the right place. Like, and of course that's no guarantee either, but it's a start. So thanks for watching. God bless.